Hello, family. Enjoy this relaxing moment with Surly Tales. Remember to hit the like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments. It means the world to us. Also, share this video with your friends and loved ones, and turn on post notifications so you don't miss future videos from us. Thank you as you do so. Sit back and relax as we dive into the story. Amara Okafor's life was a tapestry of glittering soirees, boardroom battles, and philanthropic triumphs, a dazzling display of modern African opulence in Lagos, Nigeria. Born into one of the wealthiest families on the continent, she had always been expected to shine. From the earliest days of her youth, the glimmer of gold and the shimmer of expensive silk were her constant companions. As she walked through the marbled halls of her family's estate in Victoria Island, every glance, every step exuded confidence, power, and the silent echo of legacy. Yet behind the luminous facade lay a complexity that even the most dazzling diamonds could not entirely conceal. Amara's heart bore traces of past passions and lost chances, a secret memory of love that had once set her soul aflame. It was a love that had blossomed amid shared dreams, whispered promises under starlit skies, and moments when the world itself seemed to pause in admiration of their union. His name was Emeka, a man who had captured her heart with an intensity that defied his humble beginnings. Their affair had been a collision of two contrasting worlds, her dazzling, privileged realm and his modest, yet fiercely passionate existence. In the world of high-rise buildings, exclusive clubs, and private jets, Amara's days were meticulously scheduled. Mornings began with sunrise yoga on the penthouse terrace overlooking the Atlantic, followed by meetings with influential entrepreneurs and visits to state-of-the-art hospitals and schools funded by her family's philanthropic foundation. Every detail of her life was curated to perfection, from the designer outfits that accentuated her elegance to the sleek, black car that carried her through the lively streets of Lagos. But amid these privileges, there were echoes of a past that had gradually faded into the background. A past that, on quiet nights, whispered of a different kind of life, one filled with raw passion and the honest vulnerability of a man who had once dared to dream with her. On one particularly sultry evening, Lagos was alive with music, laughter, and the aroma of spicy street food wafting through the air. Amara attended a charity gala held in a renovated colonial mansion, a venue chosen to remind the elite of the city's rich history and cultural heritage. The gala was a dazzling affair where traditional African art mingled with modern design, and classical musicians performed alongside Afrobeat ensembles. Amid the clinking of champagne glasses and polite conversation, Amara found herself momentarily lost in thought as memories of Emeka surged up unbidden. Their time together had been brief but incandescent, a clandestine romance that had flourished in the shadows of her glittering world. Amara's recollections were not of regret but of a bittersweet longing. Emeka had been different from the other men who inhabited her life, a man of conviction, whose ideals and simplicity had both challenged and charmed her. Yet, circumstances and societal expectations had drawn an unbridgeable gulf between them. The very differences that had made their connections so magnetic eventually became the rift that separated them. Emeka, whose family had never known wealth, had always struggled to reconcile his inner dreams with the relentless demands of survival. In the eyes of high society, he was an anomaly, an enigma of passion and poverty. And so, he had gradually receded from the glittering circles in which Amara moved, slipping away like a fading echo. As the night deepened, Amara drifted toward the balcony for a breath of the humid night air. Lagos sprawled before her, a vibrant mosaic of neon lights, busy streets, and hidden alleyways. It was in that moment, amid the cacophony of city sounds and the soft hum of distant conversations, that a thought, long buried, began to stir. A friend had mentioned in hushed tones that Emeka was seen wandering near one of the city's busy bus stops, dressed in threadbare clothes and carrying the weary look of a man who had lost more than just material wealth. The idea seemed inconceivable at first. A man who once ignited her heart now reduced to a figure on the fringes of society. Yet, as the night deepened and the cool breeze mingled with the heat of Lagos, Amara's mind could not let go of the possibility. How could someone so passionate, so full of life and ideals, Become a ghost in a city that pulsed with possibility? The questions swirled within her, blending with the aromas of freshly cut flowers from nearby street vendors and the distant rhythm of Afrobeat drumming. The whispers of the city, so full of contradictions and hidden truths, beckoned her to uncover the mystery. Even though her life was an endless parade of successful ventures and sparkling engagements, there was a part of her that yearned to understand the fate of the man who had once inspired her to see beyond the gilded boundaries of her existence. That night, as Amara returned to her suite, a space designed with minimalist modern African aesthetics that combined contemporary design with subtle hints of ancestral heritage, her mind was a maelstrom of memories and questions. The luxurious interior, with its sleek lines and carefully chosen art pieces, now felt oddly insufficient to contain the whirlwind of emotions surging within her. The thought of Emeka in his current state gnawed at her, igniting both sorrow and determination. Somewhere in the labyrinthine streets of Lagos lay the remnants of the man who had once dared to challenge her world. And she, a billionaire princess of modern Africa, was about to embark on a journey that would force her to confront not only the realities of the city's stark inequalities but also the unresolved chapters of her own heart. As dawn began to break over Lagos, casting golden hues over a city both ancient and modern, Amara made a silent vow. The life she led was built on opulence, yet it was incomplete without truth. Determined to uncover the fate of Emeka, she resolved to step beyond the safe confines of her privileged existence and venture into the very heart of the city's raw, unfiltered reality. Little did she know that the path she was about to tread would be fraught with unpredictable events, moments of tragic beauty, and a conclusion that no one, least of all herself, could have foreseen. In a modest neighborhood on the outskirts of Lagos, far removed from the opulent corridors of Amara's world, life unfolded with a resilience born of necessity. Here, among dilapidated shacks and weathered streets, lived Emeka, a man whose once brilliant spark had been tempered by the relentless challenges of everyday survival. The streets, though harsh and unforgiving, were not devoid of beauty. They echoed with the laughter of children playing amidst discarded objects, the persistent beat of street vendors calling out their wares, and the soulful strains of a distant guitar. Yet, beneath this everyday melody lay the weight of unfulfilled dreams and the lingering ghost of a past that still burned brightly in his heart. Emeka's journey from a hopeful, ambitious young man to a figure of urban obscurity was neither sudden nor simple. Born into a humble family in a small town outside Lagos, he had nurtured grand dreams from an early age. His mind was a canvas upon which he painted visions of a better world, a world where passion and purpose triumphed over circumstance. In the bustling markets and crowded lanes of his childhood, he had learned the value of community and the bittersweet lessons of hardship. But ambition, like the relentless Nigerian sun, burns fiercely, and it had driven him to Lagos with the hope of forging a destiny that defied his origins. It was in the sprawling metropolis that Emeka first encountered Amara, a radiant presence whose beauty and intellect shone as brightly as the city's neon lights. Their meeting had been nothing short of serendipitous, a chance encounter at a cultural exhibition that celebrated Africa's rich heritage in a modern context. Amidst the colorful displays of traditional fabrics and contemporary art installations, their eyes met, and for a fleeting moment, it was as if time itself had paused. Emeka was captivated not only by her outward elegance but by the fire in her eyes, a determination that spoke of dreams unbound by convention. For a time, Emeka believed that love could bridge the chasm between their disparate worlds. Their days were filled with secret rendezvous in quiet corners of bustling cafes, shared meals in humble eateries where jollof rice was prepared with as much love as pride, and long walks along the shores of the Lagos Lagoon. In these moments, the boundaries of wealth and poverty blurred, replaced by the raw authenticity of human connection. Amara saw in him the embodiment of a passion for life that transcended material wealth, a passion that could awaken even the most jaded of souls. Yet, as the initial fervor of their romance began to wane under the pressure of societal expectations and the heavy weight of their own inner conflicts, the fissures in their union grew too deep to ignore. Emeka's dreams, once shared with open hearts, started to diverge. He felt increasingly alienated from the glittering world that Amara inhabited, A world that, for all its brilliance, often seemed shallow and unyielding in its demands. The pressures of wealth, the endless parade of formalities and expectations, left him feeling isolated and disconnected from the simple truths he once cherished. He began to retreat inward, seeking solace in the solitude of the city's forgotten alleys. As time passed, the circumstances that had once allowed their love to flourish began to erode Emeka's resolve. Personal setbacks, compounded by the stark reality of economic disparity, pushed him to a place where maintaining the ideals he once held became nearly impossible. His once neat appearance gave way to threadbare clothing and a rugged exterior that told the story of a man beaten down by fate. The sharp contrasts between the world of luxury he had briefly known and the relentless grind of everyday survival grew ever starker, until the scales tipped irrevocably. Emeka, who had once been a passionate visionary, found himself adrift in a city that seemed to have forgotten him. The transformation was gradual but undeniable. The man who had once shared smiles and whispered dreams with Amara was now a solitary figure on crowded streets, a ghost of the potential he once embodied. He scoured the urban landscape for remnants of hope, a kind word from a passerby, a fleeting moment of recognition in a busy market, but found little solace in a world that was indifferent to his inner turmoil. In quiet moments beneath the dim glow of streetlights, Emeka's mind would wander back to the days when love had been simple and his heart had known no boundaries. Yet those memories, no matter how sweet, could not fill the void left by years of hardship and relentless struggle. In his current existence, Emeka had become both a spectator and a reluctant participant in the intricate dance of Lagos life. He navigated its maze-like streets with the cautious grace of someone who had learned to survive on the fringes. Each day was a lesson in resilience, an opportunity to rediscover fragments of the man he had once been, even as the weight of abandonment and failure pressed upon him. The city, in all its modern hustle and traditional fervor, offered few comforts to those who had fallen from grace. Yet somehow, amid the relentless heat and chaos, Emeka clung to a stubborn hope. It was a hope that one day, perhaps, his path might cross again with the woman who had once ignited his passion. A hope that, despite the odds, love and destiny might find a way to heal the scars of the past. For Emeka, the contrast between his current life and the days of old was a daily reminder of both his vulnerability and his strength. In every tear shed over a faded photograph of happier times, in every slow, measured step taken along a cracked sidewalk, there lay the indomitable spirit of a man who refused to surrender entirely to despair. Even as he walked among strangers in a city that pulsed with both promise and peril, Emeka's heart quietly yearned for the redemption of a lost love, a redemption that might one day be found in the most unlikely of encounters. And so, as Lagos prepared to greet another day with its characteristic blend of modern ambition and traditional soul, Emeka's shadowed existence continued, a silent testament to the fragility of dreams, the harshness of fate, and the enduring power of love, even in the face of abandonment and adversity. In the quiet hours before dawn, his thoughts would drift, unbidden, toward Amara, the brilliant, enigmatic woman who had once given his life a burst of color. Little did either of them know that the threads of their past were about to be woven together once more, setting in motion a series of events that would shatter expectations and forever alter the course of their lives. The revelation that Emeka, once the embodiment of passion and possibility in Amara's past, was now merely a ghost wandering the margins of Lagos, struck her like a bolt of lightning. Unable to shake the disquiet that had taken root in her heart, Amara found herself drawn inexorably to the streets she had once only observed from a safe, pristine distance. Determined to confront the contradictions between her world of luxury and the raw reality of urban survival, she set out on a quest to trace the elusive figure who had once meant so much to her. In the early light of dawn, Amara left the secure confines of her penthouse, the sprawling metropolis of Lagos awakening around her in hues of soft pink and orange. The city, with its intricate blend of modern skyscrapers and traditional markets, was a living tapestry of contradictions. Even as its skyline boasted gleaming towers of glass and steel, the humble streets below pulsed with the everyday struggles and stories of its people. With an inner resolve that belied her opulent upbringing, Amara decided that the answers she sought could not be found in boardrooms or gala events but in the very heart of the city itself. Dressed in simple attire, a modest blouse paired with jeans and comfortable sandals, Amara stepped away from the world of privilege that had so long defined her identity. The transition was jarring. The familiar hum of chauffeured cars and guarded entrances was replaced by the unpredictable rhythms of busy streets. She navigated crowded sidewalks where street vendors extolled the virtues of freshly baked bread and sizzling suya, and where the calls of local musicians filled the air with soulful melodies. Every face she passed told a story, every sound was a note in the vibrant symphony of Lagos life. Her first stop was a small community center known for its outreach programs for the underprivileged, a place where, it was rumored, many had sought refuge during hard times. The center was modest, its walls adorned with vibrant murals depicting scenes of communal resilience and hope. There, among volunteers and those seeking assistance, Amara began to ask discreet questions about Emeka. The volunteers, initially taken aback by her sudden presence, soon recognized the genuine concern in her eyes. One elderly volunteer, his lined face softened by years of compassion, recalled seeing a young man with soulful eyes and worn clothes, a man who seemed to carry the weight of both personal loss and unfulfilled dreams. Armed with these subtle hints, Amara ventured deeper into the labyrinthine streets of the city. She moved through bustling markets where the aroma of spices mingled with the laughter of children playing in the dust, through narrow alleys shadowed by aging buildings that whispered secrets of a bygone era. Along the way, she encountered a myriad of characters: a street artist passionately sketching portraits of passers-by, a weary vendor who sold fruit from a battered cart, and a local journalist who had dedicated his career to unearthing the stories of the marginalized. Each conversation painted a richer picture of Emeka's current life. One man, sitting on a stoop outside a crumbling apartment complex, recalled how Emeka had once stopped to help a struggling family carry their groceries. Another, a young mother with tired eyes, spoke of a gentle man who, despite his own hardship, had always managed to share a kind word and a modest smile. The mosaic of these recollections began to form an image that was at once heartbreaking and strangely inspiring. A man who had been forged in the fires of life's harshest realities, yet who retained the spark of compassion and integrity. As the hours passed and the sun climbed higher into a cloudless African sky, Amara's search took her to a busy bus station, a sprawling nexus of activity where the lines between wealth and poverty blurred in the commotion of human life. It was here, amidst the echo of bus engines and the rhythmic calls of ticket vendors, that she finally caught sight of him. Leaning against a faded wall, his eyes closed briefly as if in quiet contemplation, was the man who had once captivated her heart. Emeka now wore the marks of hardship clearly. His clothes were worn and frayed, his face etched with lines that spoke of sleepless nights and endless worries. Yet, even in that diminished state, there was a dignity in his bearing, a resilience that seemed to defy the circumstances that had brought him to this point. The moment their eyes met, the noise and chaos of the bus station seemed to fade into a distant murmur. Amara felt a rush of conflicting emotions: regret, sorrow, and an overwhelming urge to reach out, to bridge the chasm that time and fate had carved between them. Emeka's gaze was cautious, guarded by years of disappointment, yet there was a glimmer of recognition that stirred something deep within him. For a heartbeat, the bustling street became their private sanctuary, a place where the past and present collided in a silent exchange of longing and lost dreams. In that charged moment, both realized that the journey they were about to embark on was fraught with uncertainty. Amara, accustomed to a world where every outcome was measured and predictable, now stood on the threshold of a reality that defied calculation. Emeka, whose life had become a daily struggle for survival, carried with him the scars of abandonment and the faint hope of redemption. Their reunion was not merely a chance encounter, it was the convergence of two disparate worlds, each with its own truths and hidden wounds. With cautious words and tentative smiles, they exchanged greetings that were at once familiar and foreign. Amara's voice, soft yet determined, asked him about his well-being, while Emeka's responses, laden with humility and quiet resolve, offered no easy answers. The conversation that ensued was a delicate dance, a careful negotiation between past affections and present realities. In that exchange, Lagos itself seemed to pause, as if holding its breath in anticipation of the unfolding drama. As the day wore on, Amara knew that this encounter was only the beginning. The streets had whispered secrets of Emeka's life, and the fragments of conversation had stirred in her a determination to understand more deeply the forces that had shaped his destiny. Yet, amidst the vibrant chaos of Lagos, one truth remained undeniable. The man she once loved was now a living testament to the resilience and complexity of life itself. In the silent interplay of glances and half-spoken words, the echoes of their past resonated with the pulse of the present, a reminder that love, in all its forms, could neither be measured by wealth nor confined by circumstance. In the heat of that day, as Amara prepared to bid farewell to the bus station and the myriad stories it held, she carried with her not just the memory of a lost love but also a newfound commitment to face the stark realities of her world. The journey ahead would be unpredictable, laden with revelations and painful truths, but it was a journey she was determined to undertake. With every step away from that chaotic crossroads, she felt the weight of both her heritage and her own personal destiny, a call to reconcile the glittering facade of wealth with the raw, unyielding pulse of life on the streets. In the dim light of a late Lagos afternoon, where the boundaries between day and night blurred in a haze of heat and humidity, fate orchestrated a collision of past and present, a confrontation that would forever alter the paths of Amara and Emeka. After that charged reunion at the bus station, Amara's days became a series of clandestine meetings and hushed conversations, each encounter peeling away layers of guarded secrets. She found herself oscillating between the world she had known, a realm of boardrooms and high society events, and the gritty reality of the streets, where every moment was a struggle for dignity. Amara had arranged to meet Emeka in a quiet neighborhood near the Lagos Lagoon, a spot where the rhythmic lapping of water against the shore provided a fragile soundtrack to life's quieter moments. The area was an eclectic mix of modest homes and improvised shelters, where the air was heavy with the scent of saltwater and the promise of change. Here, away from the prying eyes of society's elite, Amara hoped to glean the truth about the man who had once set her soul alight. When she arrived at the meeting spot, a weathered bench beneath a sprawling mango tree, Emeka was already there, his gaze fixed on the horizon. His presence was unassuming, yet every line on his face spoke of a story written in hardship and quiet resilience. For a long moment, they simply sat in silence, the space between them filled with memories too vivid to ignore and questions too daunting to voice. Breaking the stillness, Amara spoke softly, "Emeka, I've been searching for you. I had no idea that you'd been through so much." Her words, laden with both regret and hope, hung in the air like a tentative bridge between two worlds that had grown increasingly distant over time. Emeka turned, his eyes reflecting a myriad of emotions, pain, defiance, and a spark of the old fire that had once captivated her. "Amara," he replied, his voice roughened by years of hardship, "life has a way of taking us places we never imagined. I didn't choose this path, but sometimes, circumstances leave us no choice." His tone was measured, each word weighed against the burden of memories and lost opportunities. Before they could continue their dialogue, the serenity of the lagoon area was shattered by a sudden commotion. A raucous argument erupted nearby between a small group of local traders and a pair of men in dark suits. Shouts and the clatter of hurried footsteps filled the space. Amara's instincts, honed by years of navigating corporate intrigues, told her that something was amiss. The suits, she deduced, were not mere enforcers of local order but representatives of a powerful corporate interest, likely tied to the rapid and often ruthless urban development projects that were reshaping Lagos. In the ensuing chaos, a stray bullet rang out, a sharp, startling sound that cut through the air like a shard of glass. In that instant, time seemed to slow. Emeka, caught in the crossfire of events he could neither predict nor control, stumbled backward. The bullet, though not fatally destined, struck him in the shoulder, sending a jolt of searing pain through his body. Amara's heart lurched as she rushed to his side, her mind a flurry of shock and desperate concern. The tranquil meeting spot was transformed into a scene of disarray, with onlookers scattering and the ominous presence of the suited men growing ever more threatening. Amara's hand trembled as she pressed it against the wound, the realization of vulnerability mingling with the determination to protect the man she had once loved. "Stay with me, Emeka," she pleaded, her voice cracking under the weight of unforeseen tragedy. The impact of the bullet was not solely physical, it was a rupture in the delicate tapestry of their reconnection, an event that forced them both to confront the dangerous realities that lurked beneath the surface of Lagos's modern facade. In the ensuing moments, as sirens wailed in the distance and bystanders hurried to provide aid, Emeka's eyes locked with Amara's. There was a silent understanding, a mutual recognition that this collision of worlds was far more complex than a mere random act of violence. It was a manifestation of the larger forces at play, the ruthless drive of corporate ambitions, the chasm between wealth and destitution, and the personal toll exacted by a society in flux. Paramedics arrived swiftly, and Emeka was rushed to a nearby clinic. Amara, torn between the instinct to protect and the stark realization of her own limitations, vowed in that moment that she would not allow the wounds of the past to be left untreated, neither in Emeka's body nor in the deeper fissures that had long divided their lives. In the sterile brightness of the clinic's corridors, as doctors worked to stabilize him, she found herself grappling with a profound sense of responsibility. The tragedy, though slight in its physical ramifications, was a harbinger of the unpredictable challenges that lay ahead. As Emeka was wheeled away, Amara remained behind, her eyes fixed on the empty space where he had sat. The bullet had been a catalyst, a stark reminder that the forces driving Lagos's rapid transformation were both external and deeply personal. In that moment of crisis, the convergence of past and present, privilege and hardship, became painfully clear. Her quest to understand Emeka's journey was no longer just a matter of personal longing. It had evolved into a mission to confront the systemic inequities that had driven him, and so many others, to the margins of society. That fateful day marked a turning point. Amid the trauma and chaos, Amara resolved to delve even deeper into the forces shaping Emeka's destiny and, by extension, the fate of countless others whose lives were ensnared in the relentless march of progress. The collision had not only rekindled a connection that time had nearly erased but had also ignited in her a determination to bridge the gap between worlds, no matter how dangerous or unpredictable the journey might be. In the weeks that followed the shooting, Lagos became a crucible of secrets and shifting allegiances. Emeka's injury had set off a chain reaction of events that reverberated far beyond the narrow streets where the bullet had struck. For Amara, each day became a race against time, a quest not only to nurse Emeka back to health but also to unearth the deeper truths that lay hidden beneath the city's glittering surface. While Emeka recuperated in a modest clinic run by compassionate local doctors who knew well the burdens borne by those on the margins, Amara immersed herself in the investigation of what had transpired. She began by re-interviewing the people she had encountered during her search. The street artist who had painted Emeka's portrait, the vendor who remembered his kind smile, and even the local journalist who had dedicated his pen to exposing corruption, all offered snippets of information that hinted at a vast, interconnected network of corporate interests and political maneuverings. It became increasingly clear that the suited men present on that fateful day were not mere thugs enforcing a local dispute. They were emissaries of a powerful real estate conglomerate, one with deep ties to some of Lagos's most influential figures. Their interest in the area surrounding the lagoon was not driven by civic renewal but by plans to gentrify the neighborhood, displacing the very communities that had nurtured the spirit of resilience. In their relentless pursuit of profit, they had no qualms about employing intimidation and violence to secure their ambitions. Amara's nights were sleepless as she pored over documents and made clandestine phone calls to old contacts from her corporate days. Every new revelation deepened her understanding of the systemic inequities that had pushed people like Emeka into homelessness. With each piece of evidence, the murky picture of corruption began to take shape. Decades-old ties between powerful business interests and local politicians, the quiet silencing of dissent, and the ruthless erasure of communities that had once thrived on the cultural vibrancy of Lagos. In a twist that no one could have predicted, Amara discovered that the very foundation of her family's wealth was intertwined with some of these same interests. An old ledger hidden in her father's private archives revealed investments in projects that, on the surface, had contributed to the city's modernization, but behind the polished veneer lay practices that had contributed to the displacement of local communities. The revelation shook her to the core. How could the prosperity that she had so long taken pride in be built on the suffering of those she now encountered every day? Haunted by guilt and determination, Amara sought to reconcile these disparate parts of her identity. She began to see Emeka not merely as a remnant of a passionate past but as a symbol of all the voices silenced by the relentless march of profit-driven modernization. In their sporadic meetings, as Emeka's strength slowly returned and the bitterness of past disappointments gave way to cautious hope, he confided in her about his own journey. He spoke of dreams deferred and the overwhelming sense of disillusionment that had driven him to abandon the pursuit of a conventional future. Yet, amid the hardship, there was also a fierce determination to stand up for what was right, a determination that resonated deeply with Amara. One evening, as the humid night wrapped Lagos in its sultry embrace, Emeka revealed a secret that had lain dormant within him. In a trembling voice, he recounted how he had once been involved, albeit briefly, in efforts to expose corrupt practices within certain sectors of the real estate industry. His disillusionment with the system had compelled him to join a small group of activists, a decision that ultimately put him at odds with powerful figures. Their subsequent crackdown forced him into hiding, and over time, the struggle to survive had overshadowed the lofty ideals he once held dear. His involvement had not only left scars on his body but had also sown deep seeds of mistrust toward institutions that were supposed to protect the vulnerable. As Amara listened, the unpredictable layers of their intertwined histories unraveled before her. The tragedy of that day, the bullet, the chaos, was not an isolated incident but part of a broader, insidious pattern. The forces that had driven Emeka into homelessness were the same forces that had, in some ways, shaped her own destiny. In that moment, she realized that the pursuit of truth was not a solitary endeavor. It required bridging the gap between the privileged and the disenfranchised, between the carefully guarded corridors of wealth and the unpredictable alleys of reality. Determined to take concrete action, Amara decided to use her influence in the corporate world to champion change. She began drafting plans for a comprehensive initiative that would channel resources into the rehabilitation of communities affected by the rapid urban transformation. Her vision was not just philanthropic, it was transformative. She envisioned a Lagos where economic progress did not come at the expense of its citizens, where modernity and tradition coexisted in a delicate but resilient balance. At the same time, the pressure from within her own family grew. Rumors began to circulate among the board of directors about her newfound interests and the unsettling connections she had unearthed. In hushed tones during board meetings, some questioned whether her crusade for justice was driven by personal guilt or an ideological commitment to change. Yet, as the layers of corruption were exposed one after the other, even those who had once dismissed her concerns began to take notice. In a series of tense, midnight meetings with investigative journalists and reform-minded board members, Amara pieced together the full extent of the scandal. The evidence was overwhelming, a network of deals and cover-ups that linked the gentrification projects to the very displacement of communities like Emeka's. The confrontation with these revelations was as unpredictable as it was unavoidable. The city's pulse quickened as whispers of reform began to circulate, igniting both hope and fear in equal measure. Through it all, Emeka remained a quiet constant, a living reminder that the human spirit, though battered, could still fight for justice. His recovery, though slow, was symbolic of the possibility for renewal amid despair. And as Amara steeled herself to present her findings before the corporate board, a move that would undoubtedly ruffle powerful feathers, she knew that the path ahead was as treacherous as it was necessary. The revelations were not just a personal reckoning for Amara, they were a clarion call to action. The unpredictable events that had unfolded over the past weeks were driving home one immutable truth, that the struggle for justice required not only passion but also an unwavering commitment to truth, no matter how deeply it was buried within the fabric of society. With Emeka by her side and the voices of countless others echoing in her heart, Amara prepared to confront the storm head-on, setting the stage for a resolution that would defy all expectations. In the days that followed the seismic revelations, Lagos was abuzz with whispers of reform and retribution. The tide of public opinion, stirred by Amara's relentless pursuit of truth, had reached a fever pitch. Yet amid the turmoil, there was a promise of closure, a resolution that was both unexpected and, in its execution, the epitome of professional integrity. Within the polished walls of her family's headquarters, Amara stood before the board of directors, a group long steeped in the rituals of profit and tradition. The boardroom, with its expansive windows that overlooked the sprawling cityscape, had always been a place where decisions were made without sentiment. But now, the atmosphere was charged with an undercurrent of anticipation and trepidation. The documents laid out before them detailed a network of deals and cover-ups that not only implicated powerful corporate figures but also revealed uncomfortable truths about the very foundation of their wealth. Amara, dressed in a sharply tailored suit that combined modern elegance with subtle African motifs, spoke with a calm determination that belied the storm raging outside. "We stand at a crossroads," she declared, her voice steady and resolute. "Our legacy has been built on the promise of progress, yet we have allowed that promise to be marred by injustice. It is time to make amends, not just in words, but in actions that will redefine our place in this society." Her presentation was a masterclass in clarity and conviction. Charts, legal documents, and first-hand accounts, many of which she had gathered through her investigations, were laid out with meticulous precision. As she spoke, the board members listened in a silence that was both respectful and pained. For some, the evidence was a wake-up call that challenged decades of entrenched practices. For others, it was an unwelcome reminder that the pursuit of profit could not come at the expense of human dignity. Simultaneously, in a parallel development that underscored the unpredictable nature of fate, Emeka's name began to circulate in a manner that elevated his role from that of a mere victim to a symbol of resilience and reform. The local journalist who had been chronicling the unfolding scandal published an exposé that not only recounted the events of that fateful day but also highlighted Emeka's unwavering commitment to justice. The story resonated far beyond the narrow confines of the affected neighborhood. It struck a chord with an entire generation that longed for authenticity in an era of superficial glamour. As Amara concluded her presentation, an unexpected announcement came from one of the board members, a seasoned executive known for his pragmatic approach and deep-rooted sense of responsibility. In light of these findings, he began, "We will establish a comprehensive reform initiative. This initiative will not only provide reparations to the communities affected by our past practices but will also institute transparent protocols to ensure that no such injustice can occur again." The proposal, drafted with legal rigor and an eye for sustainable impact, was nothing short of revolutionary. It called for the establishment of a trust fund dedicated to community development, the appointment of an independent oversight committee composed of respected figures from both the corporate and grassroots sectors, and a series of corporate reforms that would reshape the company's operational ethos. The news spread quickly, both in boardrooms and on the streets, heralding a new chapter in the interplay between wealth and responsibility. That evening, as the board meeting concluded in a measured yet hopeful silence, Amara found herself reflecting on the unpredictable journey that had brought her here. The day had begun with personal pain and uncertainty, the shock of learning that the man she once loved had been cast adrift in the margins of society, and the painful discovery of the systemic injustices that had contributed to his plight. Now, with the professional world acknowledging and addressing those very injustices, a new balance was emerging, a balance between personal redemption and social responsibility. The professional closure was not merely an end but a transformation, a metamorphosis of the very system that had long been complicit in perpetuating inequality. Amara's journey had taken her from the gilded halls of privilege to the unvarnished reality of the streets, from private heartbreak to a public crusade for justice. And as she stepped out of the boardroom into the cool Lagos night, she felt the weight of history lift, replaced by a hopeful determination that the future, though unpredictable, could be shaped by truth and compassion. In the final act of this tumultuous saga, Emeka's story, too, found its unexpected resolution. In a quiet ceremony held in the heart of the community he had come to symbolize, a memorial was established in his honor, not as a monument to loss, but as a living, breathing center for social empowerment. The center would serve as a hub for education, vocational training, and community dialogue, a testament to the transformative power of resilience. Though Emeka himself remained a humble figure behind the scenes, his influence now resonated in every corner of Lagos, inspiring change and reminding everyone that even the most unpredictable journeys could lead to redemption. As the city slept beneath a starlit sky, Amara realized that professional closure did not mean an end to the pursuit of truth. It signified a beginning, a chance to rebuild the bridges between disparate worlds and to honor the complex tapestry of modern Africa. In that moment, standing on the threshold of a new dawn, she understood that her journey, much like the city itself, was a vibrant, ever-evolving narrative, one that would continue to surprise, challenge, and ultimately uplift all who dared to seek a better tomorrow. The story of Amara and Emeka is a testament to the power of confronting painful truths, of bridging worlds that seem irreconcilable, and of finding, in the most unlikely places, the seeds of transformation. In modern Africa, where the clash of tradition and modernity paints a canvas of endless possibilities, every ending is but the start of a new, unpredictable chapter in the collective journey toward justice and reconciliation. The end. If you enjoyed this story, we invite you to give it a like and subscribe to our channel. Your support motivates us to keep bringing heartwarming stories almost every day. We are very grateful for your support. See you soon.